Oh yes, the tween and teen years bring a whole new set of challenges for parents and their children. That's my son with his friend Max and Cooper. Remember when your kids thought the opposite sex had cooties? Now they're sexting. And what's with the attitude? You don't pay bills here. We're back with pediatric emergency medicine physician Dr. Joan E and psychiatrist Dr. Tarnow. All right, all kinds of things start happening at this point because we have the hormonal shift and the whole bit. And so what's happening in the body that makes them seem like that they aren't the kids that you gave birth to?
Sex hormones.
Yeah, right.
That's right. That's
right.
Or two words, I guess. Yeah.
No longer little kids.
And that's startling for them. They have all kinds of feelings and thoughts and appearances that are completely different than what they'd had before. And they are slowly moving toward adulthood as they mature.
Yeah.
But slowly is the operative word.
And so Rick says, my 16-year-old daughter gets a lot of attention from boys. We had to talk about sex and consequences, but I'm realistic about teenagers. Is now the right age to get her on birth control? She's 16 years old. And I still go back to you know, I guess how we were made innately. 12 years old, you had babies and died at 24, right? Back in the, so we're living longer today, but that part of us didn't change. So it's not weird that it happens. We just are trying to fight against nature.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's really important that parents develop open relationships with their children before teenagers, for sure, so that they can talk about difficult issues like sex and sexuality and birth control as the children are ready to hear all of that.
And so many times parents are afraid if we say, we're going to put you on birth control, what you're saying is, yes, go have sex. And so it's kind of like, you know,
there's no evidence to suggest that giving somebody birth control is going to make them go out and have sex. There really isn't. But it is important that you have the conversation and allow them to know that that's a possibility. And then I would encourage them to have a relationship with some kind of pediatric or adult provider so that they can begin to develop their own health relationships and then make the right decision for them.
And when kids,
a lot of evidence to suggest that simply saying don't have sex doesn't work.
And when your kids say to you, where do babies come from at whatever age? You know, there are some parents, you tell them the truth,
you
right?
have a discussion about that. And that's why, as Joan was saying, is you have to prepare this before they become 13, before they have all these changes, where then for them it's this biological drive that they have to figure out. The other aspect of this, by the way, is we got to do something with the media. We have to do something with the social media and the images that we keep on portraying to young children and to 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. It's as if they're all supposed to be grown up.
Yeah, in fact, Emma, who works with us, she was saying that, you know, you look at a lot of the shows that are geared toward teens, and the kids who are supposedly in high school are really like 24 years old. Right. So they're completely developed. And Joan, you and I were saying that we all remembered that girl who developed in school,
Absolutely,
right? We all knew her. She became popular right away and developed before all the other girls did. But yeah, so what happens is kids start comparing, and they're not that Victoria's Secret model. Jacob says, my daughter wants to have her own social media account because her friends do. She's 9, and I think it's too soon. What's the right age to introduce social media?
Well, I don't think there's a specific age, but I think what is more important is making an assessment of what that maturity of that child is and how capable they are and how trustable they are. And then you experiment with it. I would like it to occur later than sooner. So for me, it's around 13, 14. That I think is the right time.
And sometimes it's okay for parents to have access to that information, right?
Absolutely.
That if they have a social media account.
You said sometimes parents have?
I would say always.
Always.
Let's say when I told my son, I was like, when you pay that bill is when you can have some control of your phone.
And I think that's one of the obligations of parents is to sort of keep an eye on everything and understand when sort of the boundaries are being violated and they need to
But you also make a great point. If you're going to say, I want to trust you, you're right, keep an eye on it, but don't let them know that you're looking at everything, because that's where you have to start that kind of letting go moment of making them independent. Probably should start a little bit earlier, but independent on all kinds of things. Like, I know I said to him the other night, did you get your homework done? He said yes. Now, I got it out and looked at it, and part of it was not done, but I didn't go back in and say, no, you didn't finish, because if you're going to get those marked off, that's your consequence. You know, either ask the teacher for help, I'm finishing what you didn't understand, but instead of like just taking care of everything for them, that does them no favors when they head off to college or leave your house.
Right.
Yeah, the parents have to be watching and careful. I love what Reagan said, trust but verify.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the approach to go with it.
Yeah.
And don't be manipulated by kids with their, oh, you don't trust me.
Yeah.
You have to base it on reality.
Yeah.
And if a child is trustable, then trust.
And your actions speak louder than your words.
And you're watching it and tell them that, because this is a developmental stage, which is very important about them learning about my word is something that's very, very important and sacred.
The other thing that's so crazy right now that is just, and I think it's always been there, it's just that every generation has a new thing, peer pressure. The number of kids who are vaping because kids say, hey, try this, and other kids who feel the peer pressure to do these things. How do we negotiate all that stuff? And I know it's from day one when you get that child home, the relationship that you have with them, but the bullying, we see depression in kids. And
again, I think that's another area where families can really be helpful in helping the child navigate those really tricky waters that they get in middle school and high school, and asking important questions. Ever see somebody bullied at your school? Has it ever happened to you? Are you afraid to go to the restroom in the middle of the day because of who's hanging out there? Have the conversations, but again, it's really important that you start with that honest relationship when they're much younger, so that they're willing to be honest with you when they're older.
And I love what actually what the schools are starting to do and talking about bullying. And you know, that has been a big change.
Putting the drug, information programs back in schools as well, you know?
Yes, I think the schools have an important place to add information. And because parents don't always have all the latest information about child development.
Literally, school is so much more than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay, when we come back, we are in a very competitive society. What does that do to a child's self-esteem, especially if that child struggles with learning disabilities? We'll talk about that when we come back.